Hajime was a disgusting, sweaty loser who spent all of his time watching anime recaps just like you and was living his life without any goal or any friends. One day, he gets transported to another world alongside his entire class where he thinks he will become the strongest hero. But unfortunately, even in this magical world filled with demons and monsters, he is still a complete loser with not a single good ability. He keeps trying his best regardless, but someone betrays him and he falls into the deepest and the most dangerous layer of a dungeon. This is the moment where he snaps and decides to enter his villain era as he obtains a dark power by consuming some monsters and tames a very powerful loli to help him eliminate anyone who would dare stand against him so he can take revenge on his bullies. Before all that though, Hajime was super happy when he and his classmates were summoned into another world by God Hit. The Pope and the King hailed them as heroes who would save humans from the demon army's invasion, but while other people got cool job classes and abilities, Hajime turned out to be a loser whose job class was Transmuter, which means he could basically manipulate the shape of rocks and minerals. Because of that, he is bullied and hated by most of his classmates, but he doesn't stop trying to help them. The only relief he has is his childhood friend Kaori, who has a not-so-secret crush on him and always protects him. One day, as they are traversing the dungeon, one overeater douchebag tries getting his hands on some magic crystals, but in doing that, he activates a trap that teleports everyone to the 65th floor of the dungeon. Faced by powerful monsters that they cannot hope to defeat, the Knight Commander tries covering for the heroes. However, he cannot hold back the monsters alone, so Hajime jumps into action, creating a wall to stop the monsters while the Knight Commander takes the injured students to safety. Once Hajime buys enough time for everyone to escape, the commander asks him to retreat as everyone attacks the monsters and covers for him. Hajime runs at full speed towards his friends when one attack suddenly hits him and he is thrown off the broken bridge. Hajime knows that the attack was aimed at him with the intention to kill him, but he doesn't know who shot it. Because of the fall, he reaches the lowest part of the dungeon, where the monsters are much more ferocious and dangerous than even the giant ones he saw earlier, and Hajime is mortified on seeing them in action. While he's still rattled from the fall, a huge bear monster spots him. He tries running away, but the monster hacks off his arm and begins eating it. The terrified and injured Hajime begins digging a cave using his transmutation ability and eventually manages to lock himself in a cave the bear monster can't reach. He passes out because of the blood loss and pain and wakes up to find water dripping onto his face. Above him is a holy crystal, which is the purest form of mana crystallization formed over thousands of years, and the water that is dripping from it is holy water that has the ability to heal wounds and cure curses. As Hajime slowly begins to process his situation, he becomes completely hopeless and devastated. However, when he reaches his lowest point, something snaps something inside him, and he decides to risk it all to return to the surface. The first thing he does is lure a wolf monster inside and kill it using a trap he created by his transmutation abilities. He begins eating the raw meat of the wolf monster, but is not compatible with the human body at all. Hajime feels like something is tearing him open from within, and in the state of panic, he quickly drinks some holy water to cure himself. The demonic DNA inside the monster begins modifying Hajime's DNA. His body begins to swell as his hair turns white, but he doesn't realize this because of all the pain. Only after he awakens does he realize the changes that have taken place in his body. Hajime immediately checks his status plate and finds that his level has jumped up because of eating monster meat, and he has acquired new skills too. Not only that, his transmuter abilities have improved after leveling up, and now he can identify the type of rocks and minerals just by looking at them. Using this newfound ability, he discovers rocks that are really hard and rocks that function like gunpowder, and creates a fully functional revolver and live ammo using his transmuter abilities. He succeeds in killing a rabbit monster with just one hit from the gun, and then eats its meat to gain some more levels and skills. With these new abilities, Hajime goes to the bear monster for a rematch. He dodges the bear's attacks using his superior mobility and shoots it with a gun, but the bear is also quite agile. Hajime is thrown to the ground, then he uses a flashbang to blind the bear and tears off his arm by shooting it. He eats the arm and then drinks holy water to neutralize the curse, before stunning the monster with lightning and then shooting it in the head to end its game. Soon, Hajime begins moving through the bottom of the dungeon, eating the monsters he hunts and neutralizing their curse with holy water, while creating bullets and more tools with his abilities. Soon, he comes to the boss room, but its giant door requires 3 orbs to be opened. Hajime tries using his transmutation powers to open the door, but he only gets a shock and activates the giant Cyclops monsters guarding the gate. Hajime immediately kills one monster as it is getting free by shooting its eye, but the other monster gives him trouble. However, he outwits the monster by constantly attacking him and then getting behind him, giving him a chance to take him down with one bullet to his eye. He extracts 2 magic cores from the monsters that are enough to get the door to open. Once inside, Hajime finds a blonde loli sealed inside a very sinister, ancient-looking hall. With his newfound Sigma male personality, Hajime ignores the loli and begins walking away even as she begs him to save her. He claims that he is not so stupid that he would free her because she must be quite dangerous if someone sealed her here. However, when the girl tells him that someone betrayed her, he relates with her and asks her to tell him the full story. The girl tells him that she was actually the princess of the kingdom of vampires, but her uncle and the ministers betrayed her to steal a throne. Since she has incredible regenerative powers, she's basically immortal, and thus the traitors sealed her here. Hajime trusts her words and breaks her prison using his transmutation abilities. Once the loli is freed, she thanks Hajime and he asks her to introduce herself. She asks him to give her a new name because she has forgotten her old one. Hajime names her Yu, and the loli is so delighted that she hugs him. Suddenly, some spikes fly towards them, piercing Hajime's back, and he falls to the ground, screaming in pain. He pulls the spikes out with Yu's help and then pours some holy water to heal his injuries. He looks above them to find a hideous scorpion monster that was stationed here to kill anyone who tries to free the vampire princess. Hajime carries Yu on his back as he evades the attacks of the monster while constantly firing at it, but the monster's thick shell can't be pierced with the small bullets. Seeing no other choice, Yu gets down and suddenly bites into Hajime's neck, sucking his blood to regain power. She then uses a powerful blue fireball to deal massive damage to the monster, but also tires herself in the process. Hajime asks her to do it just once more, and he shoots the exact spot where the 2 fireballs hit, damaging the monster's internal organs and killing it. He then starts carving out its meat as he talks with Yu that vampires have gone extinct 300 years ago, which means she must definitely be over 300. Hajime then asks her about the exit of the dungeon, but she has no idea about it. However, she knows that it was built by one of the Mavericks, the messengers of gods who rebelled against gods, lost the battle, and took shelter in the dungeons they made. Yu has heard that the Mavericks reside at the bottom of the dungeons, and Hajime believes that if they find them, they can return to the surface. Before that, he analyzes the shell of the monster and uses it to create a more powerful gun and ammo. Next, he and Yu head to the deepest part of the dungeon, and he tells her the story of how he ended up here. Yu sheds tears on hearing his story, and they begin bonding as they spend time together. Soon, they run into some T-Rex monsters that are being manipulated by a flower parasite on their heads. Hajime outruns the monsters and finds a cave where the source of the parasite flowers is present. Suddenly, Yu starts acting Hajime because she too has fallen under the control of the parasite flower mommy. Hajime somehow defends against all her attacks without retaliating, but when Yu tells him not to worry about her and shoot, he doesn't waste a single second and shoots the flower on her head to free her from the parasite. He then kills the parasite mommy, but now Yu is angry and he really shot at her when she told him to. Later, he eats the meat of the monsters while Yu seductively crawls towards him, licking her lips because she's gotten addicted to his blood. After getting some rest, the 2 of them head down, finally arriving at the last boss door. They enter the ornately decorated door and find a magnificent hall with giant crystal pillars there. They are greeted by a 6-headed hydra that appears to be the boss monster of the dungeon. The different heads of the monsters shoot ice, fire, and poison attacks, but Hajime and Yu manage to shoot them down. However, the white head in the center has healing powers, and the rest of the heads immediately return to normal. Hajime decides to take the white head down first, but the yellow head acts as a shield and defends it. Hajime and Yu keep attacking, but they don't make much progress. Suddenly, the black head comes face to face with Yu and shows her a nightmare in which Hajime never freed her and left her stuck in her seal. She loses her mental balance on seeing that dream, but Hajime hears her scream and saves her before the black snake can eat her. He takes her to safety and wakes her up, but Yu is still freaked out that Hajime will abandon her. To prove that he won't, he suddenly kisses her and says that they are going to defeat the monster and then head home together. They get back to fighting again, and Yu confronts the monster by herself, overcoming the mind attack of the black snake by thinking about the kiss. She launches a powerful attack on the hydra, while Hajime sneaks behind to attack it. His revolver doesn't do enough damage, so he decides to try out his new gun. He waits for the white, black, and yellow heads to get in one line and then blows all 3 of them away with one shot from his railgun. Yu takes the rest 3 heads out with a powerful lighting magic and falls to the ground from exhaustion. Hajime also lets his guard down, but at the exact moment, the 7th secret head of the monster arises and attacks Yu. Hajime acts as a shield for her and takes serious damage from the poison breath of the monster. Yu freaks out on seeing this, and she drags Hajime to safety amidst the reckless attack of the monster. She feeds him vial after vial of the holy water through her mouth, but he doesn't wake up. In a desperate effort to save him, Yu takes his pistol and rushes towards the hydra to defeat it by herself. However, the small gun cannot do any damage, and she is hit away. Yu starts crying as she thinks that both of them are going to die here, but her tears wake Hajime up. He saves her from the Hydra's blast breath and then keeps dodging the rain of its attacks. He asks her to drink his blood to replenish her magic, and then faces the Hydra alone to buy time for her to prepare a powerful attack. He dodges all the attacks of the Hydra and then brings down the roof on it using a grenade. He stabs it all over using rock spikes, and then Yu deals the finishing blow with a giant fireball that obliterates the Hydra. Both Hajime and Yu are too exhausted by now, and they lie on the ground, snuggled up with each other. Soon after that, Hajime wakes up in a comfy bed with Yu snuggled up to him. He wakes Yu up with a lightning shock and learns that after he lost consciousness, the gates at the end of the boss chamber opened. She brought him to this bed and helped treat his injuries with holy water and cleaned his body too. They find some clothes nearby and wear them before exploring where they are. Even though they are in the deepest part of the dungeon, it seems well lit, and there are even plants there. They come to a huge mansion and find a room with a skeleton sitting on a throne and a magic circle on the floor. Hajime senses this could be her ticket to get out, but he can't take too many risks if he enters the magic circle alone. The magic circle activates, and suddenly, a holograph of the Maverick, who created the dungeon, emerges from the skeleton and delivers a recorded message for the brave people who overcame the dungeon. The Maverick reveals some truths of the world and their war with the god, and then gives Hajime his power, only asking him not to use it for evil. He vanishes with that, and then suddenly, Hajime feels a sharp, throbbing pain in his head as the Maverick's knowledge flows into his brain. He had just obtained the ancient magic belonging to the Age of Gods, called creation magic, and it allows him to craft artifacts. He buries the Maverick's body, and then uses his ring to get access to everything in the lair. The lair is also full of ancient artifacts and knowledge that can't be found anywhere, and Hajime takes his time to gain access to everything. He creates a prosthetic arm for himself and even experiments on creating cars that run on magic. In the meantime, he starts getting closer to Yu, and they get into a relationship. Finally, after 2 months of gathering everything valuable he can from the lair, Hajime decides that it is time to return to the surface so that they can head to other dungeons and obtain more types of ancient magic. With that, Hajime uses the Maverick's ring and teleports themselves out of the dungeon. Right outside the dungeon exit, a bunny girl thought has been running away from a two-headed T-Rex monster, and she prays for someone to save her. Suddenly, Hajime and Yu come out of the exit, and the bunny girl immediately realizes they can help her. As Hajime and Yu are celebrating their freedom, the bunny girl runs towards them, saying that she was waiting for them. Hajime decides to ignore her, but she clings to him, begging him to save her tribe. Hajime still has no intention to interfere, but just then the two-headed dino attacks him. The bunny girl warns him that it is dangerous, but he easily shoots it down. After that, he decides to respect the determination of the girl, who refuses to let him go even when he points his gun at her and asks her what she wants. The bunny girl introduces herself as she, a member of the rabbit tribe. She is an exception among beastmen because she has the special ability to see potential futures. Because of this, the beastman community exiled the rabbit tribe, who are now under attack from a powerful enemy, and she wants to save them. Hajime wants nothing to do with her, but with her foresight ability, she has seen that he will help them. She offers to guide him through the forest to the next dungeon he is planning to visit, and Yu decides to take the rabbit girl along with them. Although it is clear that she is not getting any respect or compassion from either of them. Hajime gets on his bike with the two girls and rushes to save the rabbit tribe that is under attack by flying dino monsters. Hajime uses she as bait and throws her in the sky to lure the dinos close so that he can deal with them quickly. She cries that he is being too rough with her, but Hajime doesn't care. He helps out her clan by getting them allied with other beastman species by force or diplomacy, but then they start asking him to teach them how to defend themselves. Hajime tries teaching them how to fight, but they are too timid to harm any living creature and get sidetracked by every cute thing. Furious at this, Hajime threatens that he will kill them if they don't kill monsters. On the other side, she keeps training with Yu so that she can prove her worth to Hajime. Using his physical enhancement magic, she has the brute strength of a monster and manages to leave a scratch on Yu's face. Once she succeeds in doing that, she requests Hajime to take her along on his journey. He asks why she wants that, and she blushes as she says that she loves him. He is kind of creeped out by that, but just then, the rabbit tribe members come there, and now they have turned into violence-craving junkies under Hajime's command. After that, they lead Hajime to a special dungeon entrance deep within the misty forest, but to open it, he needs relics from 3 more dungeons. He decides to leave the forest the very next day, and that night, she gets Yu to agree to take her along, promising that she will be of great help. The next day, Yu tells Hajime that they should take the bunny girl with them, and even though he warns her about the dangers of their journey, she is steadfast because she believes that if she stays by Hajime and works hard enough, he may reciprocate affectionate feelings for her. They depart on their journey with that, with Shi's peculiar luck helping them out to find a hidden dungeon deep within a canyon. They enter the dungeon, guided by a mischievous voice of the maverick who set this place up. They find that their magic use is limited in the dungeon, so they have to rely on Shi's brute strength to avoid the various traps. Eventually, they come to the boss room, and the huge armors lined up on either side of the room activate to fight them off. He and Shi rush ahead and defeat them, and Yu supports them using a compressed water cannon. They manage to get past all the armor and jump on a floating cube that takes them to a strange space where they find the boss of the dungeon. It is a huge living armor with the consciousness of the maverick running it. The armor knows that Hajime and his group have cleared one dungeon already, so she asks him why he wants to clear more dungeons and get the knowledge of ancient magic. Hajime tells her that the god of this world forcefully summoned him into this world, and he wants all the power in the world so that he can return to Earth. The maverick says that he has her sympathies, but she is not going to help him out. In response, Hajime immediately opens fire on her with Shi supporting him, but the armor is incredibly tough, and his rocket launcher only puts a slight dent there. Next, the maverick attacks them by raining huge rock blocks on them, and Hajime can't blow them all away, so he grabs the girls and keeps jumping over the blocks. He reaches behind the living armor and shoots a hook at it, using it to get close and fire at it from point blank. This attack manages to cast the armor to the ground, and then Yu uses all her power to freeze the armor in its place. Hajime takes out his latest weapon, a pile driver with incredible piercing power, and tries stabbing through the armor with that, but his magic power is not sufficient. However, he was counting on Shi to deal a final blow, and she hits the iron rod stuck in the armor to push it deep inside and shatter the core. The armor suddenly stops functioning and Hajime and Yu praise Shi. Suddenly, they are interrupted by the voice of the maverick, who is using the last bits of her energy to talk to Hajime. She warns him about some powerful enemies he may face in the future, and tells him that he will have no choice but to become the god killer one day. She wishes him the best of luck on his journey as her soul leaves the giant armor. The door to the Maverick's lair opens with that, and when Hajime and his gang reach there, they are shocked to find that the Maverick still had a clone with her consciousness left behind. They hit the clone before the Maverick gives them the knowledge of gravity magic, but only Yu is compatible with it. Hajime then begins to rattle the clone to demand its treasures, and angry at this, the clone pulls a rope that causes the lake to flood up with water. Hajime and the two girls are swept along the current and blown out of the water from a nearby lake and arrive at the town inn to seek shelter. The next day, they are summoned by the head of the Adventurer Guild, who has heard about them crossing the dangerous canyon all by themselves. He has a job request for Hajime, who is not willing to take it, but the guild leader asks him to at least hear him out. He reveals that the son of a count went into the mountains with his adventuring group, but they have gone missing, and he wants Hajime's group to bring him back safely. Hajime is not interested initially, but agrees on the condition that the guild will back him up whenever he needs help. With that, he rides his bike to the small town in the foothills of the mountain. Unaware that a group of his classmates are working hard there, under their class teacher Aiko, who has the job title Farmer, which makes her extremely valuable for the kingdom. After Hajime's death, she managed to negotiate with the king to not send those unable to fight on the front line, and they joined her in the town to make the kingdom self-sufficient in food. As Aiko and the students are eating lunch, Hajime and his group venture into the same inn. Hearing them bicker loudly, Aiko recognizes Hajime's voice and rushes towards his table. He panics on seeing her there and calls her teacher, which gives away the fact that he is Hajime despite his changed appearance. Aiko gets emotional on seeing him and clings to him, demanding to know everything that happened to him. Yu tells her to calm down, and then everyone starts eating curry and rice quickly, while Hajime tries to avoid his teacher's questions. Just then, the racist mag who is escorting Aiko and others comes there and starts insulting Shi for sharing a table with humans where she is a lowly beast folk. Hajime immediately shoots his arm with a blank as a warning and tells him that he will shoot him for real the next time. The rest of his classmates watch him through the gap and wonder how the timid Hajime changed so much, both in looks and personality. After finishing lunch, Hajime tells Aiko and others that he doesn't plan to interfere with their business and he doesn't want them poking their noses in his stuff. He takes his leave with that, leaving Aiko frustrated that he won't talk properly with her. At night, Hajime sneaks into Aiko's room to talk in private because he didn't want others to hear the truth earlier. He tells Aiko that long ago the world was full of war between humans, demons, and beastmen, and the situation was worse than now. At that time, some people realized the truth that God Hit was inciting the war as a way of entertainment. Enraged, the people joined forces to stop the hit-and-end wars, but they failed and were hunted down one by one. They were labeled the Mavericks, and the survivors created dungeons and trials to pass their power, knowledge, and goal to worthy individuals. Hajime tells Aiko that he has no plan to fight the god of this world, and he just wants to return home. He respects Aiko and knows that she also wants to take everyone back to their world, and he offers to take her when he finds a way. Hajime begins leaving, but before going, he asks her to warn Kaori and others about a traitor in their group, revealing that he did not fall down the dungeon by accident, but someone shot him on purpose. He exits the room with that, leaving Aiko terribly nervous. The next day, as Hajime and the girls are about to head off for their mission, they find Aiko and others waiting for them, insisting that they will come along and help them. Hajime can't argue against his teacher for long, so he decides to take everyone along in the jeep. On the way, Aiko tells Hajime about another student who went missing a few days ago, and she's worried about him now. She suddenly falls asleep on Hajime's shoulder, making Yu and she jealous. Once they reach the base of the mountain, Hajime lets loose some of the surveillance drones he has created. He obtains the visuals from the drones in real time using his magic stone eye and goes to check them out and finds a huge crater with signs of a battle and huge paw prints on it. They climb up the mountain and find the Count's son in a cave hidden inside a waterfall. They wake him up, and the boy begins whining and crying that he's the only one who survived and the rest of his group was killed by the black dragon. Anyway, Hajime rescues him and begins heading back to the town when suddenly the black dragon attacks them. Hajime brings out a heavy shield to protect against the dragon's blast breath, and then Yu attacks it with her blue fireball. She also strikes it with her hammer, but the dragon is far too resilient. It manages to push the girls back, and even Hajime's guns have no effect on it. The dragon attacks the Count's son, but Yu manages to save him. The rest of his classmates try supporting him, but Hajime tells them to stand behind Yu so that they don't get in his way. He first counters the dragon's blast breath with a railgun and then punches it in the gut. The dragon still struggles, so Hajime uses his pile driver on it, and then she finishes it off with a heavy blow of her hammer. The dragon falls unconscious, but Hajime is not yet done with it. He decides to wake it up by attacking the only spot in its body that is not protected by tough scales. He takes the huge iron rod and suddenly shoves it up the ass of the dragon, and suddenly the dragon starts crying out in a feminine voice, asking him to be gentle on her. Hajime realizes that she's actually a dragonborn and not a real dragon, and she affirms. She begs Hajime to remove the rod from behind her because she has lost all her mana and she's going to turn into a human any moment now, so she will die if the rod stays stuck there. Hajime refuses to do so before getting some answers from her, and the dragonborn tells him that she was resting in the mountains when suddenly, a man dressed in a black robe came to her and cast a strong mind control magic over her. She was robbed of her free will and ended up attacking the Count's son and his group. The noble's son doesn't believe her, but Yu does because she knows that dragonborns are an honest and proud race, and they don't lie. She tells Hajime not to kill her because she's not really their enemy. The dragonborn then requests him to take the rod out of her ass, and Hajime begins pulling it out roughly. However, that sensation awakens a fetish inside the dragonborn girl, and just as the rod is out, she screams in ecstasy as she turns into her human form. She introduces herself as Tio, and then reveals that the black-robed magician who controlled her is raising an army of monsters, using which he plans to attack the nearby towns. Hajime confirms it using his drones and finds that there are over 60,000 monsters in the army, but their controller is nowhere to be found. Aiko thinks that they must inform the town at once, and the Count's son asks Hajime if he can't do anything about it. He replies that even if he wanted, he couldn't take on that many monsters at once. He begins walking away, but then Tio starts talking about how he violated her body and made her aware of what true pleasure is. Hajime is furious at her, but her cold gaze turns her on too. In his fit of rage, he begins dragging her away but jokes on him because Tio has turned into a full-blown masochist and she really enjoys getting roughed up by him. Once they reach the town, Aiko manages to convince Hajime to help them. With the help of the men from the town, Hajime creates walls and ridges, while his classmates help everyone evacuate. The monster army arrives at their door before dawn, and Hajime leads the town people into the fierce battle. He gives them a pep talk and establishes Aiko as the goddess of agriculture, stating that their victory is guaranteed because they have Aiko on their side and the town people are fired up. The fight begins as Hajime shoots at the enemies first, and then the rest of the girls join him. She fires off rocket launchers, Tio creates a dark flame tornado, and Yu uses a powerful lightning spell to take down the monsters quickly. Hajime soon runs out of the machine gun ammo, and even Teo runs out of mana. Yu doesn't have very much mana left in reserve as well, so Hajime decides to take she and bring down the mastermind quickly. Yu gives them cover fire with a powerful lightning spell, and they ride the bike to reach the enemies quickly. They manage to take down the most powerful monsters among the army, which causes the commander to panic. He tries running away, but Hajime shoots his ride down and drags him back to the town. To everyone's surprise, the mastermind was the missing student called Shimizu, who made a contract with a demon in order for power so that he could become a great hero. In exchange for the power, he had to kill Aiko because she was a greater asset to humans than the heroes. Despite hearing all that, Aiko tries to get Shimizu on the straight and narrow, but he uses this chance to take her hostage. He points a poisonous needle at her and tells everyone to back away or he will kill her. Just then, she senses something and leaps towards them. In the moment of panic, Shimizu stabs Aiko and she gets hit by an attack that was directed towards Shimizu and Aiko. Hajime notices the attacker flying away and tries shooting him, but it is useless. He rushes to help the girls and feeds Aiko some holy water with a kiss to heal her quickly. In the meantime, Yu manages to heal she too. Now only Shimizu is left bleeding on the floor, and Aiko asks Hajime to heal him despite everything he did. Hajime asks Shimizu if he is his enemy, and he says that he is not. On hearing this, Hajime instantly shoots him, saying that he sensed a lie in his answer. Aiko is devastated on seeing her student die, and Hajime tells her that he won't spare anyone who tries to harm him. He walks away with that, and on the way back, she and Yu understand that Hajime killed Shimizu so that Aiko doesn't blame herself for it and keeps working as the ideal teacher. Soon after that, Hajime delivers the Count's son to the guild leader and gets gold-ranked adventurer status plates made for his entire group. At night, as they are resting in an inn, Hajime suddenly notices some people keeping an eye on them. He declares that he will kill anyone who is his enemy, even if that person is a god. Those words remind Tayo of her childhood, when her dying father told her that God was their true enemy, and one day someone will rise up with the power to defeat God and put an end to his evil ways. So when she heard about the gods summoning some humans from another world, Tayo left to find them, hoping to get someone who would help her fulfill her goal of defeating God. The next morning, Hajime takes Shi on a date as a reward for her hard work during their last mission. They come to an aquarium where he meets a handsome talking fish called Lee, and they instantly hit it off. Hajime learns that Lee was captured by humans while he was minding his own business, so he decides to free him. Lee thanks him and then tells him about a pitiful merfolk girl who was being sold away as a slave. While wandering through the town on their date, Hajime feels a feeble presence coming from the sewers, so he goes inside and finds the merfolk girl, who has escaped from the slave traders. Hajime and Shi take her to a cabin by the river where she helps her get clean, and then feeds her. Hajime buys her some clothes in the meantime and learns that the merfolk girl is named Mew, who was separated from her mother in the sea, and some slave traders caught her. Since merfolks are a protected species of beastmen, Hajime decides to leave Mew with the guards, even though she wants to stay with him. However, just as they get away from the guards' station, they hear a loud explosion. They rush to the scene to find that the guards were killed by the slave traders, and now they demand Hajime bring Shi to them if he wants the merfolk girl to live. Now things have gotten personal, and Hajime decides to meet the slave traders with his full force. He and Shi begin hunting down the slaver traders' goons, and they eventually stumble upon Yu and Tio, who are having a nice tea time by themselves. On hearing about the situation from Hajime, they immediately spread out and began killing all the people involved in slave trading while gathering information from them. Unaware of this, the leader of the slave traders brings out Mew to an auction, and as he is about to hit her for not smiling, Hajime arrives there and shoots him dead. He frees Mew, who immediately clings to him. He takes her to the skies and shows her all the hideouts of the slave traders being destroyed in one go by Yu's powerful magic. Hajime then takes Mew to meet the rest of the girls. Mew gets emotional on being comforted by Yu, and then she thanks Hajime, calling him Papa. Hajime tries telling her that he is only 17, but Mew doesn't care because she doesn't have a dad, and now Hajime has to fill in that role. This motivates all of Hajime's girls, and now they want to have his kids too. Soon after that, Hajime and his group arrive at the dungeon city, where he started his journey down the dungeon, and it brings back some terrible memories for him. He goes to the Adventurer Guild and gives this city's guild leader a letter of recommendation from the previous city's guild leader. Just then, one of Hajime's classmates comes running into the guild master's office asking for help. He yells that there is a demon in the dungeon and everyone is in danger. Hajime recognizes him, and on hearing his voice, the boy also recognizes him. He marvels at how much he has changed, and then thinks that if he survived being at the bottom of the dungeon, he can save their classmates who are fighting against a demon right now. He explains how their team reached the 90th floor of the dungeon, where they ran into a redhead demon girl who was incredibly strong. She told her leader Kao to come to her side, but he refused and attacked her. However, she had all the monsters of the floor under her control, and she could not only conceal their presence completely, she could instantly heal them from any damage they received. Seeing no other way out, the class leader sent the assassin to the surface so that he could get back up. The assassin ran as fast as he could and reached the Knight Commander, Meld, guarding the teleportation point on the 70th floor. The commander protected him from the monsters that pursued him here and told him to rush to the surface and call backup, which led the assassin to come to the Adventurers Guild. He begs Hajime to save their friends, but he clearly tells him that he doesn't consider anyone his friend anymore. They are just strangers who share the same homeland as him. However, as the assassin keeps begging him to help everyone, the faces of Kaori and others who are his well-wishers spring up in Hajime's mind, and he agrees to help them. Meanwhile, in the dungeon, the redhead demon forces the students into a corner and even fatally wounds the Knight Commander who came to rescue them. Enraged on seeing Mel get hurt, the hero cow charges at the demon girl in mad fury. He manages to deal an attack to her, but hesitates because he hasn't killed a person before. Because of that, the demon strikes him away, and the second strongest person in the class, Shizu, takes up the job of fighting the demon herself. While she is more determined to kill her enemies, Shizu can't face multiple strong monsters at once and gets seriously injured. Kaori rushes to save Shizu since she is her best friend, and an injured girl casts a barrier to keep them safe from the monster attack. When it seems that they can't win, the roof above them suddenly shatters and an iron pole stabs both the monsters, finishing them in one go. Hajime makes his entry through the smoke and rubble, and Kaori immediately recognizes him without any hint. Shizu is perplexed by this sudden twist, but Hajime tells her that he will explain everything later. Just then, Yu drops from the sky, and Hajime holds her, and she uses her magic to ensure everyone else lands safely. They are surrounded by monsters on each side, so Hajime asks the girls to keep his classmates and the knight safe while he deals with the demon and the monsters. He asks the demon girl to back away right now because he doesn't want to make new enemies, but she doesn't plan to do that. She tries attacking Hajime by concealing her monsters with magic, but he can easily detect them with his monster-level sense and quickly shoots all of them down. The demon tries getting her ultimate monster, the fire-breathing turtle, to attack him, but Hajime uses his heavy-duty shield and deflects its attack towards the demon, killing the bird on her shoulder that was healing everyone. On the other hand, Hajime's classmates can't believe that he is the same guy they knew, and the traitor called Dai, who shot him that day, freaks out, saying that there must be some kind of mistake. Suddenly, some monsters attack them, but Hajime's harem takes care of them quickly. The demon girl sends a monster towards Kaori and Shizu, but Hajime gives Shizu a special sword that easily slashes through it. The demon is shocked now, but she uses a high-level magic spell on Hajime to buy her time to escape, but he blocks her way with a spear because her magic did not work on him. Hajime points his gun at the demon and asks her to reveal why she is here and how she controlled those monsters. She refuses to talk, so he shoots her legs and then correctly guesses that the monsters are created using ancient magic that the demons got after clearing a dungeon, and the redhead is here to get the power of another dungeon. The girl admits that, and Hajime learns that she is not the one who has the power of the dungeon. He kills her, but not before she threatens him that her lover will come for revenge. With that, Hajime goes to check out the Knight Commander and then starts getting chummy with Yu. Just then, his classmates come to him, and Kaori begins crying as she hugs Hajime. He is nervous about how to respond to that because she and Yu seem jealous like hell. Anyway, they head back to the surface, and Q begins lashing at Hajime for killing the demon girl when she couldn't even fight. Hajime simply tells the hero One-Egg to take his useless ideals and shove them up his butt because he will show no mercy to anyone who tries attacking him. They get out of the dungeon with that, and everyone thinks that Hajime has changed a lot, but Kaori believes that he is still the person she loves. She gathers her courage and confesses her love to him, declaring that she is going to come with him on his journey whether he likes it or not. Hajime tells her that he loves another woman, but Kaori is not disheartened by it. She still wants to stay by his side to make him realize her feelings, but there is something that she wants an immediate explanation for. She rattles Hajime while asking why Miu is calling him daddy and who is her mother. Shizu manages to pull her back, and after calming down, Kaori declares that she loves Hajime the most in the world, and Yu takes that as a challenge. She welcomes her to join the group because she will prove that she loves Hajime the most. In the end, Hajime has no choice but to accept Kaori as a part of his group, and they set out on a journey to the next dungeon as soon as the next day comes. On the other hand, the heroes return to the kingdom, where Princess Lily is eagerly waiting for them. She immediately runs to Shizu's side and learns about how things went in the dungeon. She is relieved that they are fine, but notices that Q sings out of it. Lily asks what happened to him, and Shizu tells her about Hajime's return and how he subsequently killed the demon, which scared Q mentally because he couldn't do what was expected of the hero. Also, he is not happy that Kaori left the group to go with Hajime. Lily remarks that she is really glad to hear that Hajime survived, and she wants to meet him too, But Shizu tells her that he has completely changed and she might not recognize him. Meanwhile, Hajime and his group are driving through a desert storm. Kaori coddles and pampers Mew, but soon gets into a fight with Yu about who knows Hajime better. They both start quarreling, but then Mew scolds them for always fighting with each other. Hajime is relieved that the problem got resolved. But then suddenly, Tio points towards the sandworms gathered around something. While Hajime is wondering about the reason, a sandworm suddenly comes in front of his jeep and attacks him. He swerves the jeep to avoid it, but there are more sandworms there and they keep following them. Hajime puts it in reverse gear and then activates a mini rocket launcher that he has installed in the jeep to blow away the heads of the sandworms, and then gets back on his course, heading straight towards the gathering of the sandworms. He activates the main gun of the jeep to deal with them and showers them with explosive rounds. Once the sandworms are all but dispersed, they come to the site to find an injured man there. They head outside to check on him, and Kaori checks the status card of the injured man and finds that he is struggling with a mana overload because of some sort of ingested poison. She tries purifying the poison in his body, but it doesn't change anything, so she uses a high-level holy spell that can transfer mana from one person to another. Kaori absorbs the excess mana from the man's body and stores it in the holy crystal ring Hajime gave her. She manages to save the man temporarily, but unless they do something about the root cause, they cannot cure him. Suddenly, the man wakes up and starts calling Kaori an angel. He believes that he is dead and a beautiful angel is receiving him in heaven, so Hajime kicks him to snap him out of his illusions. He takes the man inside the air-conditioned jeep and offers him water before learning his story. The man introduces himself as Baiz, the son of Duke Ankaji, who governs the region where Hajime and his group are headed. Baiz reveals that a few days ago, the oasis they get their drinking water from was polluted and everyone came down with a mana overload sickness. The only cure is a crystal called Stillstone that is found in the nearby volcano, but the adventurers of their city were too ill to step out of the city. Hajime is a bit hesitant to take up the offer, but when Mew asks if they are not going to help the suffering people, he can't help but try to be a good example to her. He decides to head directly to the volcano after supplying some clean drinking water to the city, but little does he know that there is another person with the same destination. It is the demon General Freed who has heard about the redhead demon's death. She was his assistant's lover, who is furious that Hajime, who has been dubbed the Irregular by demons, killed her and even sabotaged their mission to kill Aiko with an army of 60,000 monsters. Freed tells his assistant that he will head straight to the volcano, which is also a dungeon, and obtain the ancient magic from there. Using that, he swears to complete the mission their god has given him and kill the Irregular. On the other hand, Hajime and his group reach the dukedom of Ankaji and meet the Duke. The Duke sees hope as he hears Hajime say that he can save their people. While Kaori and Shi try helping the patients, Yu creates a huge hole in the ground using gravity magic, and Hajime coats it with a waterproof mineral. Yu then uses water magic to fill the giant pool with clean, drinkable water, and then they head to the oasis, where Hajime's sharp senses detect a monster in the water. Following his hunch, Hajime throws a bunch of grenades into the oasis, shocking all the residents of Ankaji. However, his ploy works out as giant slime tentacles suddenly attack him. He shoots some away and Yu and Teo freeze and burn the rest. Soon, a giant monster slime appears out of the lake, and it is easy to deduce that is the source of the water pollution. Hajime shoots the slime down with just a single bullet, but that doesn't change the polluted water. The Duke remarks that he has never seen a monster like the slime, and Hajime believes that it must be the work of demons. The Duke expresses his gratitude, and Hajime revels as he says that the Duke owes him a huge debt. After that, Hajime and others leave for the volcanic dungeon to get the cure, with Kaori and Mew staying behind. They come across the same old sandworms, which Hajime shoots down with his jeep and then cross a huge sandstorm to reach the volcano. As they climb up the volcano, the temperature becomes too high for everyone to bear, except for Tio. They enter the volcanic mine to find traces of Stillstone, but most of it has already been mined, so Hajime decides to head deeper. Suddenly, a wall of lava comes towards them, but Yu nullifies it with her gravity magic. Hajime finds a lava bowl standing in front of them, and he is ready to shoot it, but she takes it out using the new weapon he created for her. Soon they come to a huge Stillstone mine, and after gathering what they need, Hajime decides to head deeper into the volcano to clear the dungeon. The heat gets unbearable, so Hajime creates a cave to take rest, with Yu and Teo using their powers to create cool breezes. Hajime thinks that he must develop some AC equipment next, and Teo remarks that this could be the theme of this dungeon. Hajime asks her to elaborate, and she says that all dungeons have some sort of theme. The first dungeon he cleared seemed to be designed for fighting monsters and getting experience, while the second one was designed to fight with magic being restricted. She believes that this dungeon is designed to teach them how to deal with disadvantageous terrain. Hajime thinks there is some truth in her words, and then they resume the journey. They take a boat down the river of lava, but then suddenly, they fall down a waterfall or a lava fall, to be correct. Yu uses wind magic to make sure that they don't create a big splash, and then Hajime notices a dome submerged in lava that has 100 magic stones on it. He thinks that it must be the Maverick lair, but that means the boss monster must also be nearby. Suddenly, a ball of lava comes flying towards them. Tio manages to nullify it in time, but then dozens of lava balls target them, and they have to abandon the boat to get to safety. Hajime tries rushing towards the central dome, but he is attacked by lava snakes rising up from the lava lake. He retreats to a safe distance and begins shooting the snakes down. He discovers that they are being controlled by a core inside their bodies, so he shoots the cores down to put them out of business permanently. The girls join in on the action too, and she notices that for each core they destroy, one crystal on the dome shatters. Hajime realizes that they must defeat a total of 100 snake monsters to clear the dungeon, and everyone starts working hard to achieve that goal. However, just as Hajime finishes killing the final lava snakes, he is attacked by a powerful energy beam coming from the top of the volcano. Everyone freaks out, but Hajime survives the beam somehow. Yu stops him from falling into the lava pit and feeds him holy water, but he isn't getting any better. This gives Yu PTSD and the flashbacks of the time they fought the Hydra, and she doesn't notice that the threat is still not over till Taiyo alerts her. A rain of energy beams targets them, but Yu uses a barrier to shield themselves. Once the attack stops, she looks up to find the demon General Freed riding a white dragon. He expresses surprise that Hajime survived after taking a direct hit from his dragon's breath. He wants to make sure that the irregular dies, but Hajime gets up and tells him that he is not going to go down so easily. The demon introduces himself as Freed, the god's apostle who obtained ancient magic after clearing a dungeon. He declares that when he obtained the power, his god gave him a mission, and he will do everything in his power to make it true. Hajime declares him an enemy and immediately attacks him, supported by his girls, but to his surprise, Freed has a strong barrier protecting him because he brought some barrier-creating turtle monsters to back him up. Hajime keeps attacking him, so Freed uses the ancient magic of teleportation to appear behind him and hits him with the dragon's breath point blank. Hajime somehow blocks it with his shield, but he is having a hard time. He pulls out his newest invention, which is a group of flying cross shields that protect him from the dragon's attacks while he begins inching towards Freed. Freed tries using his teleportation magic again, but Tio pushes his dragon away to thwart his plans. She's transformed into a dragon now and fires her dragon breath at the white dragon and begins pushing it back. Freed tries to use his ancient magic on her, but Hajime appears behind him and shoots him, shattering his barrier and then gives him a wound on the chest. Tio also hits the white dragon, forcing both him and Freed to retreat. Hajime doesn't have energy to pursue him and he falls down, but Tio saves him from falling into lava. They regroup with Yu and Shia, and now Freed realizes that they are a greater danger than he had initially thought. So he uses the last-ditch method and destroys the cornerstone of the dungeon, which is the only thing that was stopping the volcano from erupting. The lava starts to rise, and Freed opens the multi-layered door leading out of the volcano to fly away. Hajime immediately thinks of a plan. He gives Tao his ring and asks her to escape to safety using the volcano's mouth. Meanwhile, he plans to conquer the dungeon and obtain the power hidden inside it so that he can defeat Freed later. Tio takes his ring and flies towards the closing doors while braving the attack of the enemy forces. Being a masochistic pervert allows her to convert all the pain from the attack into a power boost, and she keeps flying ahead despite taking damage. Freed tries to attack her, but the flying shields created by Hajime automatically activate to defend her, allowing her to escape safely. Freed plans to follow her, but then the flying shields surround him and self-destruct, causing a huge explosion. The injured Tao somehow reaches the city gates and Kaori comes running to check up on her. But when she notices that Hajime and others are not with her, she starts having a panic attack. However, when Tio is taken inside, she reveals the entire story to Kaori and asks her to trust Hajime because he definitely had a plan to come out alive of the volcano. Kaori suggests that in the meantime, they should head to Miu's hometown to reunite her with her mom, and Hajime will find them there. On the other hand, Hajime and others somehow drag their feet to the Maverick's lair inside the dome and find that the teleportation magic Freed used is still available for them to learn, and they also obtain an artifact that serves as proof of their conquest. The girls are at their wits' end about how to survive the rising lava now, but Hajime has a plan. He opens the gates to the lair and they float around in a barrier Yu made. Hajime then summons a sturdy submarine he has been developing to explore the underground dungeon next, and he thinks that it would endure the lava just long enough to get out of the volcano. Luckily, the submarine manages to stay intact even in the pool of lava, but Hajime loses control of it. Eventually, they escaped from the lava as an underwater opening of the volcano bursts open, leaving them stranded in the sea. A couple of days pass as they aimlessly wander around because Hajime can't repair the submarine without his ring. They start eating some fish to pass time when suddenly a bunch of angry fishermen spring up on them, mistaking them for slave hunters. Hajime chokes on his fish so he can't explain anything in time, and the merman begins attacking Shi. Hajime hits them into the sea with a fish, and then suddenly, he hears Miu's voice as she falls from the sky, with Taiyo and Kaori alongside her. Hajime jumps up to catch her, and Miu hugs him tightly as they land. Kaori and Taiyo also get their chance at embracing Hajime and telling him how much they missed her before they can start their journey. They reach the town of Merfolk, where Miu grabs Hajime's hand as she begins pulling him towards her home to meet her mother. Her mother, Remy, was planning to go to look for her daughter despite her injured leg, but as soon as she sees Miu, she begins crying tears of relief. Miu notices her injured leg and immediately calls out to her daddy to treat her. Apparently, Remy is the femme fatale of the merman town, and every guy and girl want to be Miu's stepdaddy. Hajime tells Miu not to worry about anything as he lifts Remy in his arms and takes her to her house. Kaori checks her injury and says that she can treat it in a few days. Remy thanks her and Hajime and then asks where he met her daughter and why she calls him Papa. Hajime tells her the entire story and Remy is extremely grateful to him. She invites everyone to live at the house for the time they are going to stay here, but Hajime says that he plans to stay at an inn near the port. However, Remy emotionally blackmails him, saying that he's going to leave soon, so he should act like Miu's dad the entire time he is here. She is more than willing to accept him as her husband and raise Miu together, but Hajime knows better than to accept that offer because all of his girls are giving him death stares. Hajime and his group leave the town of Merfolk after a week and head towards a dungeon that is situated on the seafloor. He does not know the location of the dungeon precisely, but as he sees the full moon at night, he suddenly gets an idea. He uses the medallion he got from the volcano dungeon that absorbs energy from moonlight and becomes a beacon pointing at the sunken dungeon. He takes the submarine to the location of the light and the seafloor parts give way to him. They are sucked in by a strong current, but Hajime keeps the submarine under control and even blasts away a mysterious monster chasing them. He reaches a wall with a pentagram carved on it, and with the last bit of moon energy in the medallion, he unlocks the door behind it. Just as the door opens, their submarine falls into an underwater cave, which is the starting point for exploring the dungeon. A torrent of water falls from the sea above, but Yu easily blocks it. Taiyo notices something on the roof of the cave and attacks with her powerful dark flames. Seeing their intimidating display of power, Kaori feels weak and self-conscious. They head into the dungeon with Taiyo and Shi taking care of most of the monsters. Hajime believes that the dungeon is too easy compared to others when suddenly they encounter a slime monster that is immune to physical damage, and it also has the power to melt through magic. No matter how much Hajime and others attack it, the monster keeps regenerating and dissolving their shield, but it gets hurt a bit from flames. Hajime realizes that there is something wrong because he cannot see the core of the monster as well. He thinks that their only choice is to escape for now, so he opens up a hole in the ground using his pile driver. They fall out of the cave into strong currents of the deep sea, and seeing that Kaori is going to get taken away from them, Hajime prioritizes saving her. They find themselves on an island where Kaori gets depressed that she is the weakest link in the group whom Hajime cannot trust to stay safe by herself. He tells her to stop being a depressed and begins exploring the dungeon. They arrive at Graveyard of Warships, where they start hearing voices of a battle, and then suddenly the entire scenery changes. They feel like they are a part of an ancient naval war, and they cannot physically interact with most things, even though their magic immediately destroys the incoming attacks and people. They are surrounded by the illusory people who are trying to kill them in God's name, so Hajime grabs Kaori and escapes from the ship. They keep traveling ahead, but then Yu falls sick because of the dark energy coming from the sunken ships. She apologizes to Hajime and he clearly tells her that she is holding him down. He asks her why she decided to come with him and tells her that he doesn't like her whiny attitude because all she has is an inferiority complex whenever she compares herself to Yu. He says that he let her come along because she had the conviction that coming with him was the best thing for her, but now it seems that things have changed. He asks her to rethink her decisions and offers to take her back to the rest of the group. Anyway, they keep exploring the area and come to the giant ship in the center, where the scenery changes again. They find themselves witnessing a lavish party containing humans, demons, and beastmen alike, and they seem to be talking rather peacefully. Just then, the human king arrives there to greet everyone. He talks about how it has been 1 year since they signed a peace treaty and ended their long, bloody war, and how glad he is to see the representatives of all the races here. However, that was just a farce, and the king had gathered everyone here so that he could massacre them all at once under the command of God Ahit. As the king revels in the bloodshed, Hajime is disgusted to see what the evil god can make his followers do, while Kaori starts retching. The illusion vanishes soon, and after giving Kaori some time to recover, Hajime decides to explore the ship because it must be the core of the dungeon. They head inside, where Hajime suddenly finds a steel wire that was rigged to a physical trap. He blocks the arrows shot at them because of the trap, but then suddenly, a strong gust of wind blows Kaori away. Hajime has to deal with some illusion knights before he can reach her, but Kaori claims that she is fine. She approaches Hajime, telling him that she is scared and wants him to console her, but he immediately points his gun towards her because he can sense that an evil spirit is possessing her to kill him. He shoots Kaori's body with magic bullets that only hurt the spirit and not Kaori's body. She falls to the ground, dropping the knife she was hiding, and Hajime tells the spirit to leave Kaori's body at once, and when it refuses, he keeps on shooting her with the special magic bullets. He tells the spirit that since she dared to harm someone precious to him, he will make sure she suffers through hell while he keeps shooting her. Ultimately, the spirit cannot bear the pain and leaves Kaori's body. As soon as Kaori is back in her senses, she kisses Hajime and tells him that she has found her answer. She wants to stay with him because she loves him, and even though he may not be interested in anyone other than you, she will try her best to win him over. Hajime then carries Kaori on his back as he heads to the Maverick's lair, which he finds without any further challenges. You and others also teleport there just then, and they are shocked to see Kaori on Hajime's back. She tells them that she is not hurt and is just doing this so that she can get spoiled by Hajime. She tells everyone about their kiss, and you acts like she's not jealous at all. Anyway, they step on the magic circle, and the recorded message of the mermaid Maverick who created this dungeon asks them to stop believing in the cruel god and make their own decisions. She vanishes with that, leaving the proof of conquest and magic of restoration for Hajime's group. As soon as Hajime picks up the proof of conquest, the dungeon starts acting up and the water level rises. Yu quickly teleports them back to the cave outside, but the water level immediately rises there too. And to make things worse, the infinitely regenerating slime monster is also there. While the girls fend off its attacks using their barrier, Hajime thinks about ways to defeat it. He begins heating up a magic crystal so that it explodes and evaporates the monster, but he needs 3 minutes for that, and it doesn't look like the girls can hold out that long. Just then, a school of fish attacks the monster, led by the Chadfish Lee. Lee explains that the ancient monster is a huge pain in the asses of all sea creatures, so he will help to defeat it. He buys enough time for Hajime to create some powerful torpedoes that blow away the giant slime monster. With that, Hajime and his group return to Mew's town. They have been staying there for around a week, and even though Hajime really wants to leave on the journey, every time he thinks about how Mayu will react, he postpones his departure. One day, as everyone is playing in the sea, Remy thanks Hajime for everything he has done for her daughter. She tells him that he should do what he must and assures him that Mew has matured a lot after meeting him, so she will understand that he has to go. Following her advice, Hajime tells Mew that he must leave on his journey now, and though she's in tears, she doesn't tell him to stay with her. She just asks him to come back to her when his journey is over, and Hajime promises to come for her and take her to his hometown. The next day, Hajime and his group are ready to depart for their journey, and Mew gives them pink seashells as good luck charms. Back in the royal capital, Princess Lily finds her father and his guards behaving oddly, as if they are under a spell. She goes to talk with Shizu about it and informs her how the ministers and the priests plan to brand Hajime as a heretic for defying God's will. Not far away from them, the traitor Dai is venting out his frustration because Hajime took Kaori away. Suddenly, the mastermind who urged him to attack Hajime the first time comes there and offers a trade. The mastermind is one of his classmates, and she tells Dai that she will help him get Kaori, but only if he helps her with her next plan. Soon, Aiko comes to the palace to stop the king and church from branding Hajime a heretic, but she fails. As she is returning to her room with disappointment, she meets a nun who asks her to come to the Divine Mountain with her. She tries hypnotizing Aiko, but her powers do not work on her. So the nun knocks her out with a punch to her gut to take her along safely, but Princess Lily sees it all. On the other hand, Shizu and the students in Aiko's team are worried because she suddenly disappeared. The Knight Commander Meld tells him that he has been told that Aiko has gone to the Divine Mountain to negotiate directly with the Pope to plead Hajime's case. However, Aiko is in a prison cell, and the nun who kidnapped her declares that her master, God Ihit, is not interested in her for the time being because her student Hajime is far more interesting. Meanwhile, in the capital, Princess Lily is running through the city in disguise to get help after witnessing the nun kidnap Aiko. She tried talking to her dad, but he was like a different person, so she can't trust him or anyone else in the palace. The mastermind from Hajune's class has gained control of most of the Night Order, and only the commander Meld and a few of his loyal soldiers are still in their senses. Meld orders his deputy to find the cause of the sudden change in the behavior of the knights because he believes that demons must be behind it. After that, he writes 2 letters in his office, one of them addressed to Hajime in case things go south in the capital. Just then, Dai pays him a visit, saying that he wants to talk about something in private. Meld lets him in without any suspicions, but Dai does not speak anything and bids time till Meld's deputy knocks at the door. Meld opens the door, and his deputy immediately attacks him because he has also fallen prey to the brainwashing spell. He cannot harm the Knight Commander, so he decides to attack Dai, who is trembling in the corner. Meld tries to protect Dai and tells him to run away, but Dai turns out to be a traitor too, and he stabs the Knight Commander in the back. Meld panics on realizing that Dai was an enemy all along, and he blows everyone away with the strong wind magic. He tries finishing Dai first, but 2 soldiers arrive there, just then to guard him. Facing Dai, the deputy commander, and the 2 soldiers at once is hard for the injured Meld, but he still succeeds in knocking everyone down. At this moment, he finally realizes that Dai is not brainwashed like the others, who get up immediately after they are knocked out because they don't feel any pain in this state. Having no other option, Meld jumps through the window to save his life and then tries blowing everyone in his office away with magic, when he suddenly feels a very strong presence that he cannot ignore. He looks above to find a winged woman who complains about how the king and the heroes from the other world are all half-baked, so she's going to take things in her own hands. Meld instantly realizes that even though the woman looks like an angel of God hit, she's an enemy, and he prepares to face his death at her hands. On the other hand, Hajime and his group are traveling to their next destination when they see a caravan being attacked by bandits. Though the bandits outnumber the guards, a powerful barrier protects the caravan. Hajime thinks that there must be someone rather special creating the barrier because sustaining it will be hard. Kaori has a hunch and she asks Hajime to help the caravan out. He immediately speeds towards the group, shooting down the bandits with the jeep's main gun. Kaori goes out to heal the injured people, and suddenly, Princess Lily, who had created the barrier, comes to her. She is relieved to see Kaori here but gets shocked as she sees Hajime's changed appearance. Hajime doesn't recognize her at all, and the princess starts crying. He asks her what a princess is doing so far from the capital, and Lily suddenly gets serious as she informs them that Aiko has been kidnapped. Once in the jeep, Lily explains in detail how her father started growing more radical in the support of church each day, and at the same time the soldiers became lethargic and lost in their own worlds. Soon, the church branded Hajime as a heretic, and Lily tried convincing her father to intervene, but he refused. Aiko also came to negotiate, but she was kidnapped by a mysterious nun. Lily says that she wanted help, and the first people she thought of then were Hajime and Kaori. So she sneaked out of the capital and then headed towards the duchy they helped earlier to find their location. But fortunately, she found them on the way. After hearing everything, Hajime decides to save his teacher, and he swears that if anyone comes in his way, he will kill them. Little does he know that while he is heading towards the Divine Mountains, the demon army is already on the move. Meanwhile, Aiko is depressed inside her prison cell, but the thought of Hajime cheers her up a little. Just then, Hajime appears outside her window and Aiko freaks out. He tells her to calm down as he opens a hole in the wall and tells her that he is here to rescue her. Aiko finds it hard to believe, and Hajime explains that the princess told him about her being held captive here. Just as he is about to take her out, he feels a powerful magic being activated in the distance and realizes that the demon army has launched a surprise attack on the kingdom. He wants Aiko to join Kao, Shizu, and others to tell them about the situation. However, a blinding light begins heading towards the prison cell, and Hajime gets out of it just in time to see the entire tower of the church getting disintegrated. The angel who was behind everything appears before Hajime, introducing herself as Noint, an apostle of the god, who has been commanded to get rid of the irregular. Hajime just gives her a smirk that means he is ready for the challenge. Meanwhile, in the capital, Yu and others rush to alert Shizu about the situation, when suddenly, the barrier protecting the capital shatters. Everyone is perplexed, but Tio, who is on watch, contacts everyone using the communication devices and tells them that a huge army of demons is attacking the city. The demon general Freed is leading them personally, and Yu decides to head straight towards him so that she can get revenge on him for the last time. She joins her too, and Kaori and Lily are left by themselves to alert the rest of their classmates. Yu and Shi join up with Tio, when suddenly, Tio gets a call from Hajime, who wants her to hurry to his location and carry Aiko to safety. She flies away, and seconds later, she alerts Yu about an incoming attack. They jump from the tower just as a portal opens above them and a powerful dragon breath destroys the tower. Freed and his dragon army emerge from the portal, and he decides to finish Hajime's allies before heading towards him. He orders his dragon to attack them, but Yu has also mastered spatial magic by now, so she creates a portal and redirects the attack to Freed's troops, erasing them. The enraged Freed declares that he is going to take on Yu alone and asks his assistant to deal with Shi. She immediately heads to fight the blonde demon. But she finds that it won't be easy for her to fight with distractions. Yu creates a portal for her to go somewhere quiet to have her fight, and there she finds that the blonde demon has an incredible amount of hatred for her and Hajime. He reveals that he is the lover of the redhead demon they killed in the dungeon that day. He begins talking about how his girlfriend was really kind and caring, but she doesn't care about that. She tells the demon that his girl was the one who attacked him first, even though Hajime gave her a chance to run away, and since she chose to die, he can't complain. The demon gets angry and commands his troops to attack her, but she easily blocks them all, and then uses a huge wrecking ball connected to her hammer to bring down the demons. The blonde demon's attacks manage to hit her and start petrifying her body. Luckily, Shia uses the power of restoration they got from the underwater dungeon to return herself to normal. The blonde demon is irritated and launches his most powerful attack on her, but she has no trouble dodging them with her foresight abilities. She manages to defeat all the demons and then slams Blondie to the ground too, finishing him off for good. On the other hand, Yu faces Freed and absorbs all his attacks with her gravity magic. She counterattacks with lightning magic, but the demon turtle below absorbs the magic and shoots it back at her. Freed is confident that with the demon turtle supporting him, he can nullify Yu's power, but she tells him to keep dreaming. She uses her ultimate spell, summoning 5 elemental dragons that wreak havoc on the demon army. Pushed to the edge by this, Freed uses his ultimate magic that creates a nuclear explosion over the capital, and Yu somehow avoids being caught up in it with her teleportation magic. However, just as she relaxes her guard a bit, Freed's white dragon stabs her with its horn. He thinks that he has won the battle, but Yu uses a special magic to reflect the damage she received on the dragon and Freed. Severely injured, Freed realizes that he cannot win, and using the dragons as a decoy, he runs away. On the other hand, Hajime is facing Noint, who attacks him by converting her feathers into arrows. He can only dodge the flurry of the arrow rain because holding Aiko limits his movements. Noint charges towards him directly, blocking all his bullets with her broad swords. She tries stabbing Hajime, who somehow avoids the blade by a narrow margin. He immediately counters by sending his cross shields ahead that fire at Noint, but she blocks them too. Hajime is getting frustrated that he can't pierce her damages, but Noint praises him, saying that he is too strong to be her master's pawn. Hajime replies that it is the greatest compliment he could get because he wouldn't want to become the pawn of a seemingly all-powerful insult with ego issues. Angered by his words, Noint uses powerful fire magic at him, but Hajime survives because of the barrier feature in cross shields. Suddenly, he hears a prayer in the distance that starts weakening his powers, and Hajime realizes that it must be the work of the church headquarters directly below them. Hajime proposes a truce and asks Noint if it won't be better for her to help the humans against the demons. She replies that God will accept whatever the outcome of the battle will be. He asks Noint that since he is not interested in being the god's enemy, they should send him back to Earth, but she refuses, citing that God he hit wants him to die a pitiful death halfway to his goal because that would be very entertaining to him. She suddenly attacks Hajime with disintegration magic, and even his barrier is not strong enough to endure that. However, Taiyo arrives there just then and hits Noint with a powerful fire breath, sending her crushing into the church behind. Hajime is glad to see her, and he asks her to take Aiko to safety so they can fight freely. Taiyo flies away with Aiko, telling her that they need to hurry so that she can drop her off safely and then go to assist Hajime. Aiko replies that she also wants to help. Even though she has no combat skills and no experience, her mana is equal to the hero Kyo, and she plans to support Taiyo with that. Aiko creates a magic circle on her hand with her blood, and respecting her decision, Taiyo decides to take her along. Meanwhile, Hajime dodges the fire magic from Noint before attacking her with his Gatling gun. She easily dodges his attacks and then sends some feathers towards him. Hajime blasts all the feathers away and then shoots her using his railgun, but Noint's barrier deflects all his shots. However, Hajime succeeds in getting close to her for a shot with high piercing power, but this time, Noint simply teleports away as he fires the shot. Hajime sends his cross shields after her, but she dodges their attacks and destroys them easily. Hajime tries shooting her again, but she vanishes and appears behind him. She slashes through his railgun, causing it to explode, but then Hajime pulls out his pistols as he uses his skill to boost his power temporarily. He keeps fighting Noint, whose power doesn't seem to end no matter what she does, and Hajime is pushed to the edge as he gets injured and exhausted. Noint attacks him again, but then Hajime sees that her swords are starting to crack. He thinks that this is his chance and detonates the cross shield around them. He takes some damage from the explosion, but manages to hit Noint too. However, that was just to create some gap between them. Hajime throws 2 discs at her, and Noint easily deflects them to the side, calling it a very feeble attack. However, Hajime pulls out 2 more discs that are connected to the previous 2 by teleportation magic. He shoots through the portals, and Noint barely has any time to defend herself from the sudden attack. Suddenly, her blades shatter, and while she is still trying to process it, Hajime binds her using another one of his tools. To finish things, he brings out the pile driver and attacks Noint with it. She tries to block it with her feathers, but the power of the pile driver is too great, and it bores a hole through her, causing her to lose her life and fall into the deep valley below. Hajime is pleased, but just then, he hears an explosion in the distance. He rushes there to find that Tayo and Aiko have destroyed the church that was supporting Noint. Hajime is surprised to see that Aiko stayed behind to help, and Tayo explains how she used her farming skills to create a flammable natural gas that blew away the entire church in one go. On realizing that all the people in the church also died because of the explosion, Aiko is horrified because she was not ready to be a murderer. Hajime consoles her, and just as they are getting ready to head back to the capital, they see the ghost of a priest in front of them, who beckons them to follow him. Hajime realizes that this place was a dungeon too, so he decides to follow the priest to obtain another ancient magic. The priest leads them to a magic circle that teleports them to the Maverick's lair, where they immediately learn spirit manipulation magic. Hajime goes ahead to take the ring from the dungeon and reads that the conditions to clear this dungeon were to clear 2 other dungeons, have no faith in God, and defeat one of God's minions. Hajime takes the ring, and with that, he is ready to return to the capital. Meanwhile, in the capital, when the barrier around the capital shattered, Shizu had a bad feeling, so she immediately got ready and gathered the girls to take action. They reached Ku and the boys too, and once they gathered, one of the palace maids came to them and informed them about the demon invasion. Ku wanted to fight the demons to buy time for citizens to evacuate, but a girl named Eri suggested that since there are too many demons and monsters, they should regroup with Meld and the knights first. Everyone agrees with her idea, and they go to the vice commander, who tells them that Meld will join them in a moment. He leads the heroes through the night squadron, and Shizu and another girl feel something is odd. The vice commander addresses everyone and pulls out a magic ball to give a signal to start, but Shizu realizes something is off and shields her eyes just before the vice commander activates the magic ball, blinding everyone. In the duration that the light blinds everyone, the knights stab everyone and only Shizu is left standing. She can't understand what is happening when suddenly, the maid from before comes running to her and asks for help. Shizu tries comforting her only to get stabbed in the back by the maid, who was brainwashed the entire time. The maid pins down Shizu and cuffs her hands just as the mastermind comes forth, and it is none other than Eri. Shizu is shocked to see that she was behind everything. Eri takes off her glasses as she begins laughing like a maniac. The heroes are disarmed and restrained, and then Eri walks towards Kao. She puts a collar around his neck and then suddenly kisses him, saying that he finally belongs to her now. Eri tells Shizu that she always loved Ku and wanted him for herself. Even if she proposed to him and got into a relationship normally, he would still let the rest of the losers in their class burden him because he is too kind. That is why she did all this, to make sure that Kao belongs to only her. As for the knights and the maid who are acting odd, Eri reveals that they are already dead and under her command because she is a necromancer. Eri's best friend refuses to believe that she can do something so cruel, so she decides to show her that she means business. She orders a knight to kill one of their classmates and then uses her necromancy powers to turn him into her puppet. Eri reveals that she can cast this special spell that allows her puppet to retain some of their personality on just one person at a time, so she had been preparing for this day for months. She tells Shizu that she especially hates her and Kaori because they were closer to Kao than the rest of the girls. That is why she plans to kill Shizu and turn her into a puppet, which she will use to kill Kaori. Eri is about to stab Shizu, but a barrier protects her, and the maid is also restrained with holy magic. Kaori and Lily have arrived on the scene, and they don't understand what is going on and why the knights have attacked the heroes. One of the knights tries attacking them from behind, but Dad comes there just then and takes him down. He convinces the princess to let her guard down, but just as she lets him into the barrier, he knocks her out with a punch. Then suddenly, he stabs Kaori through the chest, telling her that this is what she gets for choosing Hajime over him. Despite the fatal injury, Kaori pushes through and chants a spell that instantly heals the injuries of her classmates. The sword is pushed out of her body as it heals, but Dai grabs it and shoves it in again. Kaori's body turns limp as she dies, but Q and others get up, furious at Eri. Cobb summons his sword and begins hacking through the zombie soldiers, while the assassin frees the rest of his friends as well. They hold off the knights who try attacking them, and Q charges at Eri to finish her. However, Meld comes and blocks his attack. Q is taken aback because he doesn't realize that the knight commander is also a corpse under Eri's control, and by the time he realizes this, he suddenly falls to his knees and starts vomiting blood. Eri remarks that the poison she fed him with the kiss earlier is finally working. and now he won't be able to interfere with her plans. She moves on to turn Kaori into her puppet too amidst the screams of her classmates, but then suddenly, Hajime arrives there to save the day. One look at the battlefield makes him understand everything, and he quickly moves towards Kaori, punching Dai into a wall and taking Kaori into his custody. He finds her body is lifeless, so he pulls the sword out of it and entrusts her to Tio and Aiko, who begin casting the spirit magic they recently learned on her. Eri tells them that it is useless because Kaori is already dead and promises Hajime to bring her back using necromancy if he doesn't attack her. Hajime is in no mood to spare her, but then suddenly, a knight attacks him from behind. Eri thinks she got him, but Hajime blocked the attack using a barrier. He takes down the knight, so Eri sends Meld to get him. However, Meld still has a bit of his consciousness, and he requests Hajime to put him to rest. Hajime obeys and immediately shoots him, and then pulls out his Gatling gun to obliterate all the dead knights in around him. Eri cowers on the ground to protect herself, and Hajime points his gun to her head to finish her quickly. However, he is interrupted when Dai attacks him from behind. He slams him to the ground before lifting him up. Dai complains that if he were not here, Kaori would have been his, and Hajime tells him that even if he were the last man in both worlds, no girl would choose a loser like him. He gets Dai outside the palace to get crushed by the rampaging monsters, and then turns his attention to Eri again. Just then, a powerful dragon breath comes towards him from a portal in the sky, and Hajime somehow deflects it. Freed makes his appearance at the scene, and before Hajime can face him, Tio tells him that they need more help with Kaori. They have managed to keep her soul attached to her body, but they want you support if they want to bring her back. In the meantime, Freed tells everyone to surrender or his vast army will squash them. Hajime has no time to fight him, so he summons a weapon of mass destruction he has created that annihilates all the monsters within seconds using an enormous skybeam. Hajime tells Freed that he wants to kill him, but saving Kaori is more important to him right now, so he will let him go. Freed swallows the rage and humiliation and decides to retreat, and Eri takes this chance to get away too. Just then, Yu and Shia arrive there, and Hajime tells them to help Kaori while he stays behind him to deal with the students here. Shizu is devastated after Kaori's death, but Hajime assures her that they will bring her back at all costs. Meanwhile, Yu and others take Kaori to the ruined church and take shifts to keep casting the spirit magic on her body. When Hajime reaches them, Yu assures him that Kaori will be alright, so he should talk with Aiko, who is taking a break right now. Hajime reaches Aiko, who is praying to atone for her sins of killing the people in the church. She has a heart-to-heart with Hajime, telling him that she understands that he was justified in killing Dai, but as a teacher, she still wanted to let him live and atone for his sins. She feels guilty about her actions as well, and Hajime says that he has a selfish request to make of her. He wants Aiko to keep feeling guilty and learn from the guilt to make better decisions because that is what humans do. Hajime claims that he has lost part of his humanity now, but he wants to learn from his teacher and become a human again by the time they return to Earth. Aiko is moved to tears, and then Hajime tells her that if she ever feels too burdened by anything, she can lean on him, and she takes up the offer to lean on his back and cry her heart out. 5 days pass, and most of the heroes move on from the incident and try rebuilding their strength. Lily takes up the throne after her father died during the incident as well, and she comes to talk with Q about how things are on his end. He is concerned about Shizu, who is still waiting for Hajime to return with Yu. Just as he says that, Hajime and his group fall from the sky, and Shizu rushes to him. She notices Kaori is not with him and asks about her. Hajime tells her that she will be coming here any moment now, but she is a little different from the last time, and it is not his fault. Seeing him so nervous, Shizu starts getting aggressive, and just then, Kaori falls from the sky, but her soul is in Noint's body now. She screams for Hajime to catch her, but he just gets aside and lets her crash to the ground. Seeing the unfamiliar face, Ku draws his sword, but Shizu tells him to stop because she can recognize her best friend. Kaori gets up and affirms that she is still alive even though she had to change her body for a bit. Shizu immediately hugs her and breaks into tears. After calming down, she asks for an explanation, and Hajime and Kaori tell her about the ancient magic that they discovered in the dungeons. Using the soul manipulation magic, Hajime put Kaori's soul in the repaired body of the angel Noint. Kaori says that her original body is also completely intact, but she wanted to be put in this body because it is stronger, and she plans to use it to help Hajime. Yu tells everyone that Kaori's original body is also stored safely, and she can switch to it anytime she wants. After that, he reveals how the god of this world is a cruel sadist and everyone is just playing the game he wants them to. Cook gets furious on hearing this and asks Hajime why he didn't tell them before, and he just points out that they wouldn't believe him anyway. Kao thinks that now Hajime is going to join hands with them to fight the god, but he has no plans to do so. He tells the hero Wanib that his power is not to save the world and asks him to get stronger if he wants to save the world, even though he doesn't have the willpower to do it. This interaction with Cal follows Hajime's mood for the entire day, and he is still grumpy at dinner time. Shizu and the rest of the classmates also join them, and when they learn that Hajime is planning to go to the dungeon in the forest where he met Shi, Lily asks to join him because that place lies in the neighboring empire and she has business there. Hajime reluctantly agrees, and then Cal declares that he will also follow him because he can't trust Lily in the hands of a man who doesn't want to save the world. He spouts the regular crap about saving the world that ruins Hajime's mood, and to top it off, he asks Hajime to let them follow him to the dungeon so that they can also get their hands on the ancient magic that will help them save this world. Hajime does not want any extra baggage with him and says that he will just tell them the location of the dungeons. However, Aiko knows that the rest of the students are not strong enough to survive the dungeon on their own. Shizu and others request Hajime to do them a favor and carry them through a dungeon so that they can get a little bit stronger, and after being pressed from all sides, he decides to accept their request. The next morning, everyone is assembled at the city gates, and Hajime's classmates are really eager to clear the dungeon. A group of students led by Aiko is going to stay behind, and they wish everyone the best of luck. With that, Hajime and his group head toward another adventure.